Kira, tell me very simply, what does EU membership mean to you, Kira?
It means that our country will have a future that we all believe at. You see behind me, there are flags, NATO flag, EU flag, Ukrainian flag. But it's a sign of what is written in our constitution, a will of Ukrainian people. At some point, we were in between roads where we had a chance to go in one direction with Russia and or to go in EU direction. And we made a clear choice. And right now, we are paying for this choice. We are making sure that the will of Ukrainian people is being executed on, that we don't want to have anything to do with Russia, and we want to live in a democratic European country. This is what we want to build. And when we are talking with you on the EU prospects of Ukraine, I think there are two sides of it. The first is the entity point, and the second is the process point. So in terms of the entity and essence, we are already Europeans. Yeah. We are fighting for European values with our lives. If you remember, Russia started the war in Ukraine in 2014 when we made this choice so clear, when we went on the street saying we want to join EU and we don't want to have anything to do with Russia. So I think this should be clear for everyone. And then there is a process. And we know that it is painful and complicated. However, we are ready to go through all of it. And we were very open about that. We said, okay, give us the list and we will start working on it and we will go through that. Look, no countries that joined EU were perfect at the very beginning. None. And we all know our history. Yeah. But we are willing to work on it. And by the way, John, this is very important. Right now, there would be a summit, Ukraine-EU summit that will be held in Kyiv.
Yes.
And last year, European Commission gave us seven advice, 7 steps that we need to fulfill to continue our accession process. And guess what? For the last year, Ukrainian parliament has voted for all the necessary legislation in this matter, yes, for all 7 points. Yeah. There are many questions about the execution, about the level of how we are moving forward with the reforms. However, we are on the path and we are doing our homework incredibly well for a country at war, and generally incredibly well, I can say.
Yeah, I can hear, Kira, the passion in your voice. I can understand it very, very well. You make your point with crystal clarity. You, Ukraine, you want to align politically and economically with your free neighbors in Europe and the West and away from Russia. You're also at the same time seeking to get closer and into NATO over time. That is a pretty long-term project too. We'll leave that point for another day. Where the EU is concerned, though, Kira, 2026, that's the deadline among the Ukrainian leadership. Do you really consider that's realistic, though?
Well, I can say it's important at this point to have some deadlines that we will be working towards, right?
Yeah.
So people would know that this is the goal, and we'll be pushing their political leaders to achieve those goals if they are set. And that would also set us with the proper processes with our European partners. So instead of saying, oh, we will give you your roadmap maybe in a year, then we can say, no. Look, Ukrainian people already demanding from us this 2-year time frame. So we need the roadmap earlier. We need to make sure that it's not a stale process that takes 10 years, for some countries. We cannot afford that. We are in an absolutely different situation. So please, we are being pushed, and now we are pushing you. And I think it's a very good strategy to set some time frames and then try work towards it. If we will miss that, okay. But I think we need to push towards that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the summit. It's happening later on this week in Kyiv. Charles Michel, the president of the European Council of Europe's political leaders, and Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the Commission, they're going to be there, as well as the leader of foreign policy in Europe. It's a big summit, but those EU figures, Kira, are under pressure to dampen expectations on your side, and because there are European leaders who say your economy, there is so much more to be done there to get it up to the point where Europe can consider you a partner. And on the security aside, well, of course, the situation with Russia is obvious. That argues against early EU membership. It's a big mountain to climb. I do want to bring in Rachel and Paul, though. Rachel.
Yeah, hi Kira, thank you for joining us. I was really interested where there are obviously, as John said, certain rules that you have to fulfill to join the EU. Do you feel that the EU should take a more lenient approach to those rules, almost as a sign of solidarity with Ukraine at this very difficult time? Or do you want to be judged just like any other country applying to join?
Well, I'm seduced to say, please give us everything right away. But of course, we know that we have to have certain processes in place. And let me give John a counter argument on economic stability and current situation. We all know that there would be a tremendous amount invested in Ukraine for the rebuild. And I'm, as a Ukrainian, is the most interested that this money will be used, distributed within the rules already of the rules the same that the European Union has, with the free market, with the ability of different vendors to access the tenders to fight for these funds and to be able to make sure that these funds are distributed as open, as clean as possible. So aside of thinking how complicated situation in Ukraine is, we should be thinking how easier it should be to implement those rules right now.
Yes.
So then when we are doing rebuild, it's already European rebuild according to all the rules and the processes that will be in place.
Yeah. I should point out, I don't raise these points because I want to have a particular objection to Ukrainian membership. I'm rooting for you, Kira, but they're big obstacles that need to be, as you know and recognise, overcome. Paul War.
Hi, Kira, it's Paul here. And do you think there's some sort of halfway house to full membership? In other words, is there a sort of bridge to the future? Obviously, this is ultimately about hope for the Ukrainian people. It's about giving them hope that one day you could be part of the EU, just as one day you may be part of NATO. Do you think that there's a bridge to get there, maybe with an enhanced trade cooperation that's much better than you've got at the moment, that you could get something more concrete in the meantime, pending full membership?
You see, this war taught us one thing is not to agree to half measures. And let's think of it from the other side. Like what would happen if we are not getting the EU membership in the nearest future and we are there at this bridge or halfway? What I think is we will miss an opportunity not only for Ukraine, but for EU as well, and for the overall integration and all the issues that we have been talking beforehand to be resolved right now in this painful, though accelerated process. And then we will have decades of slow development and solving all the matters. Though right now I see a way for us to go through this path in accelerated way. And we have a political ability to do that. We have a will to do that. We have opportunities to do that. And we should do that.